Welcome to another episode of 411 Morning Now. Yes, I know. A lot of people seem to think that it's a crazy name, but I'm kind of crazy, so it's fitting. But thank you for joining me again. This is the recap of crime stories that I have been following, and you very well may have been following as well. And some you probably didn't even know that there was an update on. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first one that I'm going to talk to you about is Jared Lasik in AWP. Now, maybe you're not aware of this, but a lot of the families that AWP has helped find the lost loved ones of over the course of the 2.5 years that they were doing YouTube content directed just at this and not river cleanup and waterway cleanups, but helping the recovery of actual lost loved ones. A lot of times they told people, or they used what's called a non disclosure agreement to try to keep people from not talking to the media so they could get ahead of the story, get their videos out there, to being the first ones. But today I want to read you a statement that was released by a couple who AWP helped come find their lost loved one, their son, who had vanished and was found in a body of water. It was a successful recovery, and they wanted to write this to let everybody know just how the initial part of it started off. So I'm going to now read you their statement. This is an anonymous statement. I have confirmed, though, that this statement comes from them through a mutual friend who was actually there with AWP at that time. And it reads as the following. We found the group as a whole to be very professional and caring. We cannot thank them enough for their endless work and support in finding our son. At the same time, we were in a world of darkness. We had no idea who to turn to help us, find our son. We were not aware that he would have perished in a body of water. Initially, a lot of people had thought that he had just left everything and skipped off out of the county, probably the state. But eventually, we did turn to the likelihood is that our son was deceased. Not knowing where he was, we had endless nights where we were up worried that maybe someone would stumble upon him somewhere. We wanted closure. We needed closure. During the initial conversation, we were asked several times directly by Jared Lasik on the phone if the reward money was still in effect from our savings and loan. This is a small community, and savings and loan is putting up part of the reward money, along with our Teamsters Union, who had offered up a partial amount of the actual reward for information leading to the recovery of our son. He asked again during this conversation and follow-up conversations if the reward money was still in effect. It was very clear to us that he was not only looking for the reward money, but was also looking for the exposure that this series of videos or video would bring him in AWP. We never had any communication with any other member of AWP, not his wife or any of the divers or anyone else who volunteered or worked with the group, just Jared Lasik. At this time, we want to make sure that everyone understands we are internally grateful for the work that AWP and everyone who volunteered and worked with the group did for us. We would not have had the closure today that we have without their work. And it should be known, just because the man was greedy and wanted the money, the reward money that was offered up, at one point we said to ourselves, is it that bad? Is it terrible that he wanted the reward money, a total of $10,000 that was offered as a reward for information? But at the same time, we wanted closure and would have easily paid 10 times as much as long as we got closure. He is now, in light of this, since the recovery of our son, has now made threats to sue us for breaking the non-disclosure agreement, which we have never seen. We have never signed. and would love to see in writing where we actually signed a non-disclosure agreement. We are making this statement anonymously only so people understand just how grateful we are for the work that AWP did for us, but also let everybody know that there's a business side to this, and clearly he needed to pay his bills. And the fame and the money was just as important as finding our son, end quote. So again, for all those people out there who think that Jared Lathick did it out of the goodness of his heart, well, here's yet another family that is breaking the silence and letting everyone know that it's not the case. It's not the case that he was in it just for, to help people. If the rest of the group may have been, because the trickle down economics in this group, AWP, is very, very little compared to anyone else who would do this type of work. The next story should upset you as much as it upsets me. Idaho state law has determined that J.J. Vallow's grandparents are not victims of this crime. They are not victims of the crime because they are not a biological mother or father of the victim. Therefore, they cannot be treated as victims in this. What does that even mean, you might ask? They will not be given preferential treatment to access the courts. They will not be guaranteed a seat in the court proceedings itself. They are being treated just like the general public. Additionally, they may not qualify for victims' compensation to travel from their home to the actual court to be there for the proceedings to make sure Lori is sentenced and pays for what she has done. Because the statute was so vaguely written by the state legislators in the state of Idaho, they're not considered victims, which I cannot tell you or express to you just how much pisses me off. That the two people who wanted and cared the most for JJ and wanted JJ with them the most are not victims underneath Idaho state law. God help us. If they're not victims, who is a victim? Additionally, moving on to the next piece, the jury selection for Lori Vallow's case is still ongoing, and it should be noted that Judge Boyce, even though the jury selection has started, has not set a firm dead end date, a date that is normally set months in advance before jury selection. He has not set a date for not filing any more motions. So tomorrow afternoon, her defense could walk into the court and they could file 30, 40 motions and to stop the case until all the motions are heard. And it would have to be heard underneath Idaho state law and the U.S. Constitution. They would have to hear the motions before the jury, could be seated and before the trial could begin. Because again, Judge Boyce and the state has dropped the ball again in this case by not setting a firm date to not be able to file any more motions in this case. You have to wonder what really is going on here. What is going on behind the curtain? Is there just one man, Judge Boyce, pulling all the levers, like as in The Wizard of Oz? Or is there someone else or something else that is actually controlling this case? The more it goes on and the more bizarre things that happen like this, you have to start to wonder what is really going on. Next, and our final update for the week is Alex Murdaugh is still in isolation and in protective custody. They used both terms loosely in describing where Alex is in the actual penitentiary system. Is he in isolation, which would mean he'd locked down 23 hours out of 24 hours a day? Or is he in protective custody and able to walk around? Because again, the prison system there and the court has actually said both of them in the same paragraph when describing what Alex's actual housing accommodations are right now. But we do know the following. According to the state, it takes between 20 to 25 days for an inmate once been sent to prison to be accustomed where they do lock them down in isolation or in protective custody until they get their routine down and they understand what the rules are of the actual prison itself. Likewise, at the same time, they are going through security protocols to protect the inmate. And yes, even someone like Alex, who is busted ass broke, is open to extortion. And people may want to try to extort him. So they have to make sure that they put him in a situation where it is in his best interest. Well, he will not need additional security around him to protect him. So that normally, again, they say takes 20 to 25 days for the entire thing, all of it's working at the same time, to work out. But is he in isolation or is he just in protective custody? Or are they using a little bit of both for him right now in the system? That shall be seen. That is the news updates from March 31st to April 7th, 2023. Now, special notice to each and every one of you out there. Make sure you tune in next week on April 15th. That is a Saturday, for a live news update show. Yes, I said when I changed the format to this that periodically throughout the months, of the year, that I will be doing a Saturday morning live again. It will start off just like this with the news update and then an open chat and discussion where I will be answering your questions if you have some. But again, in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, you stay safe out there, and I will see you next weekend. Again, live